Alright, so you've heard people say, I'm against gay marriage, but it should be legal because people should be able to do whatever they want. They're not hurting me. What's the big deal? Make it legal. That's what should happen. Now, what they are saying, the philosophical underpinnings of that is that they are saying it is immoral to ban gay marriage. A society in which gay marriage is banned is an immoral society. In other words, they're saying the ideal society, in order to serve justice, fairness, equality, and all that all those essential components of government, the ideal society has gay marriage. Now, then they might say something like, well, I didn't say the ideal society has it. I think the ideal society doesn't have it. But I just think that we should be fair and let people do what they want. Okay, well, there you're crossing lines again. Your idea of the ideal society is what you believe should and should not be tolerated. If for some reason, and you may have very good reason, you believe that gay marriage is inherently immoral and inherently bad, all religion aside, that this is a bad social construct that will lead to the downfall of a civilization, then no, you should not vote for that to be legal. The ideal society cannot. There are certain things that are inherently evil, and that society, according to the laws of nature, all church aside, okay, murder, stealing, rape, incest, prostitution. There are some things that are inherently evil and should not be tolerated. Because why are they evil? Okay, we can erase the word evil if you want and put it in and for one thing, conversations on law and government don't have to erase the word evil, but I'm going to just to appease you uber anti-religionists, just in case you don't understand that the word evil is not a religious word. Okay? So, anything that inherently tears down society, for example, theft. If we teach that theft is okay, our society is going to quickly collapse into a big mess. Nothing's going to run smoothly. It's going to be tribal and no respect among thieves. It's going to be the Stone Ages, the Dark Ages, right? So there are certain things that are inherently broken or non-working. They're non-working practices. They don't work. Okay? Theft doesn't work in society. You have to punish theft in society or your society will collapse on itself. Other things such as rape. Society will collapse on itself if you do not punish rape. Kidnapping. Society will collapse on itself if you do not forcibly punish kidnapping by law. Okay? And someone could well say there are some really good arguments that homosexuality is embraced as a regular social construct, or in other words, a legal social construct, will tend towards the collapse of your civilization. Some of those reasons could be people will stop having babies, and there's more sexually transmitted diseases through anal sex because of the different kinds of bacteria that exist in the colon. You could show social studies that point out that biologically sired and parented children turn out way better in every measure that we possibly can think of: grades, behaviors, satisfaction, family compliance, delinquency, illicit sex and alcohol and drugs. In every measure we can possibly think of, children perform worse when they are parented by people who are not their biological parents. And in a homosexual marriage, will children in that marriage be parented by people who are their biological parents? One of them, sure. Two of them, no. Absolutely not. It's a fact of nature that you cannot have a baby between two people of the same gender. So, gay marriage, a legal, accepted, public way of life, is inherently wrong because it will tear down our civilization. And that's all thing religion aside. Now, separation of church and state is a very critical thing. Let me give you an example. Tithing. Tithing should not be mandatory. It should not be a law. The police shouldn't hunt you down if you don't pay tithing to your church. Why? Because it's not evil to not pay tithing. It's just not religious. Okay? If you don't pay your tithing, you're still a good person. You're just not a religious person. Also, keeping the Sabbath day holy. Okay, that's another common religious tenet. Or whatever day holy. It should not be something that's illegal because you're not a bad person if you don't keep the Sabbath day holy. You're just not a religious person. So, freedom of religion, you should be able to practice your religion. That's an inherent thing. That is a thing between good and evil. Yeah, you should be able to practice your religion. So, the religious, we are keeping separation of church and state. We are not making, belief in Jesus Christ as your savior of your soul, the savior of your soul. If you do not believe that Jesus Christ is the savior of your soul, you're not a bad person. You're just not a religious person. Okay? The government should not punish you for not believing in that tenet of faith. Government should not punish you for not believing in any tenet of faith. But things like rape, okay, my church just so happens to say that rape is a bad thing. In fact, they call it evil and so forth. And they talk about hell and all that jazz involved with it, people who do that. But just because my church has that stance on a social thing doesn't mean it's a church thing. It doesn't mean that when I go to the polls and I vote against the candidate who's saying rape is the way to go, we should allow this lifestyle choice of people who want to do that, or pedophilia, that's a more popular one. It actually, there's associations built around that and everything that are quite public. Okay, we can go to the polls and say, I do not want to legalize pedophilia, because it is inherently bad and it destroys young children. The children are not capable of making decisions about doing things like that, and it's contrary to the nature of propagating the next generation in many of the cases where it's seen. You give a plethora of reasons as why it's inherently bad without turning to the Bible. In questions of government, there are natural things in our the laws of nature. Nature's God. Okay. In other words, things just plain old don't work when you do them in certain ways. Okay. Societies fall apart when you tolerate certain things. So that's all religion aside. So there's two things that we're getting at here. Don't take separation of church and state too far, meaning, yes, keep separation of church and state, but don't insist that any social principle from your church is bad to promote in the public welfare. And also, the other idea that we've been getting at is that it's not just to allow an inherently bad thing to go on in your society in the name of tolerance. If there's a minority who really likes, doing something really bad, right? Incest or pedophilia. This is an argument that is actually made by people. They say it's just one of many lifestyle choices, okay? This pedophilia stuff. Well, no, it's not just one of many lifestyle choices. It's something that's destructive and manipulative and a whole list of other bad things. So saying that, we should allow pedophilia to be legal because everyone can do what they want and it's a free country, or even consenting adults. No, we shouldn't tolerate some things done by consenting adults. Like if one adult tells another, and this is actually, there's been a case where this has happened, hey, you do this, give my family, a certain amount of money, and I'll allow you to kill me and eat me. There was a cannibal case where someone pulled that, and if I remember the case correctly, the person who killed the other guy and ate him, even though they had a contract saying that this other guy agreed to this, the guy still had to go to jail for manslaughter, for premeditated murder, however that is said, which is worse than manslaughter charge, if I remember correctly. So just because two consenting adults are in on it doesn't mean it's okay and good and should be tolerated in society. There's a lot of bad things that two consenting adults can do that trickles down to greatly undermine the structure of our society. So don't take this position of, well, yeah, I don't think gay marriage is good, but I'm gonna say that it should be legal because we want to be equality, have equity for these minorities of consenting adults who aren't hurting other people. Well, that's not the case, as we've shown here. You must vote on what you believe is morally correct. If you believe that a strong, equitable society cannot have certain things like prostitution or incest, rape, pedophilia, theft, homosexuality as an embraced institution, think about what your children will experience growing up. In public schools, if it's legal, they're going to have to teach this is one of many acceptable lifestyles. They're going to lose their job if they say, but P.S., it's not good, and here's all the reasons why it's bad. They'll get thrown out. It's this idea of getting to the least common denominator. It's Hegelian dialect, where you have a synthesis and an antithesis, or a thesis and an antithesis, and those two meet in the middle at a place we call the synthesis. And you keep having these marriages between thesis and antithesis, of two polar opposites making these synthesis. You get the least common denominator in the end. It's like if you have 10 billion cultures and you have to tolerate multiculturalism to all of them, and sooner or later you're just going to have no culture at all. You're not going to, having your own culture is going to be outlawed in the name of other cultures, and then the whole thing implodes on itself. So justice means in other words, evil parades in the name of tolerance. It's just a sad reality of our time. There are certain things that we do not tolerate because they destroy our civilizations. And so you should place your vote, you should place your voice in accordance with what is a good society. All religion aside, you can do that. Just because your church says they don't like gay marriage doesn't mean it's a church thing and that it has to be separated from the state. That's a social thing. Okay? You don't want to carry separation of church and state so far that you're getting into separation of social and state, because state is a collection of social values. Yes, we have to use the word values in government. There's no escaping it. Government is values, social values. What kind of government are you going to have? No government at all. It's going to be anarchy if you embrace inherently non-working, incorrect, and another word for that is evil practices, which lead to self-destruction.